Hello, everyone. I am really excited to be here to present today about digital transformation and especially how we can drive business growth and sustainability post-pandemic. So that's the topic for us today, and I hope to bring to you some really valuable information from all of my learnings in the last 12 years. So with that, this is what I'll be covering today. We'll begin with what digital transformation means to you, what it actually is in terms of looking for opportunities to bring that digital transformation to your business, and why now is a really amazing time to think about digital transformation going into 2023. Number two, we'll discuss how we can drive the business growth, part of our topic. And then number three, we're gonna go to why sustainability. That's one of my favorite topics, and I'm gonna try to link sustainability to being able to attract and retain the best of the best talent. And number four is actually my favorite part, because this is where I'm going to be walking you through a step-by-step guide. If I were to go to a business and I'm tasked, Arvind, go ahead and start that digital transformation process, then what's going to be my step one and what's going to be my step 2 and 3 and 4. So that's what we're going to go through. And then finally, last but not least, we'll cover some real world examples so you can get some ideas and really think about how some of those ideas could be inspiring for all of you. So what does digital transformation mean to you? At times, it's about solving problems that your business has, and that is using technology. So that, yes, is digital transformation, but is that digital transformation overall, or that's just a piece of it? So this is a small subset of overall digital transformation. What digital transformation also entails beside tech is mindset. If digital stands for technology in the digital transformation, then transformation is really about mindset, which can be from two different areas. It's people as well as processes. We're gonna cover processes in detail, but for people, of course, it's about culture, it's about changing that overall mindset and bringing everyone along. And all of that is really important as well when we talk about digital transformation and driving growth, and that too, doing that using technology, and that too looking at your different processes that are there. Now, what is that right mindset for digital transformation? A true transformation requires, as I mentioned, a fundamental change within that culture as well. You may be very familiar with how you might be doing certain things, but you have to almost forget some of that, and you have to be open to trying new things. That too during a time when this is something that may not be working for, that you may not have enough evidence that you want to make those changes. So this is basically coming up with a completely different mindset than your traditional business practices, something that may have worked for you for a very long time, but now going in and coming up with a brand new process for something, or a brand new mindset for trying new things. So in this, when do you know that you're on that right track? When do you know that you are actually making progress while you're driving this innovation, while you're creating some digital transformation for your organization? Well, if you see that the transformation is overwhelming, if you see that it is requiring a lot of areas where you need to make changes, that's when you know that you are on the right track. So let's go to the topic that we have. It's digital transformation and how we can drive that business growth. So of course it depends on the kind of business that you're in, and we'll talk about that. We'll touch on the different verticals that we have and how it is important and what are some of the differences within these various strategies that we may have. But overall, driving business growth means increasing revenue or being able to run some zero cost experiments Now, almost there are not huge costs, like unlike 10, 20, 30 years ago, when if you wanted to try something new, you didn't have options but to really stop all of your production line and then go ahead and make some changes. So that's really not the best idea. And now we are able to do these experiments that are not so much cost. Looks like my team is requesting me to do something here. Yes. We can keep going.
Just 1 minute.
So there may be some people that are in the lobby, so we need to enter them. Let's see, view the lobby. Okay, that's too many guests. People.
You can give us the laptop.
Okay, I can, yes. And then maybe I can have an iPad or a different. So in the meanwhile, I want to just thank all of my team members. They have been really amazing, and they've been working on setting up this sort of our studio, and also working on coming up with these ideas and work on this slide deck. So if you all are interested, you are welcome to send us an email, and there's going to be a link as well, and then you are okay to go ahead and get that slide deck that we have, that I'm using here, that you're able to see if you are joining us from Microsoft Teams, and then you can also see if you are. Okay, great. Looks like we have admitted. Okay, great. We'll do a quick recap for the new people who have just joined. Okay, sounds good. Well, sorry for the interruption, but we're going to go through this really quickly again, because it looks like there were some people in the lobby that we were not able to admit, but looks like now everybody's in. So welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about digital transformation and how we can drive business growth using digital transformation, and how we can do that in a way that's sustainable post-pandemic. So that's something that's really important, and we're going to get into each of those areas. We're going to talk about what digital transformation means to us, and what is really beyond technology, digital transformation. Also, what are some of the ways that you can drive that business growth, again, depending on what kind of business you're in, and then also how you can do that in a sustainable way and why that is important. So on the agenda slide, you can see that these 5 main aspects are the ones that we'll be covering. Number 1, digital transformation, what and why now, why this is such an important time for us to talk about digital transformation going into 2023. Number 2, we'll touch on how to drive business growth. Number 3, why sustainability is important for us. Number 4, this is going to be a step-by-step guide. So in the step-by-step guide, this is something that if I was tasked to go and create that digital transformation for a brand new business, for a business that I may know just superficially about, then what are those steps that I would take when I get into that business tasked with digital transformation? And then number 5, also one of very important ones is going to be the real world examples that we can walk through. So what is digital transformation? At times, digital transformation may seem like it is utilizing technology to solve the problems that you have at your organization, to look at a business problem and then using technology to solve that. And yes, in some sense, that is correct. That is digital transformation, but there is more to it. In digital transformation, if digital perhaps stands for that technology, understanding what are the different components of technology that you can use to create digital transformation, then the other part, that transformation, is changing that mindset, in understanding the mindset and changing that mindset to be ready for digital transformation. And that really covers 2 aspects, people and processes. So in terms of people, it is very important that you go ahead and bring that change and set a new culture. That's the culture that is adopting these new ways of doing things, and the technology that is going to be important to have that competitive edge. And then the processes. What are some of the ways that we can have these new processes that are going to be important It's not just technology, but really looking at the people and processes as well. So with that, developing the right mindset, of course, is very important. And a true transformation requires that we look at the culture and then we look at the different, we come up with a different mindset than whatever has worked for us in the past. There may be some traditional business practices that we would have to challenge and ask questions, and that's going to be really important as well. When do you know that you're on the right track? Well, if it feels like it's a lot of pain, if it feels like you are feeling, if it feels overwhelming, then it's definitely a sign that you may be on the right track. Now, what are the different drivers for business growth? This is an important one where what does it mean to drive business growth? Of course, for every business in a specific vertical, it can be different and you could have different goals. One such goal could be increasing revenue. Another one could be running some zero-cost experiments. What that means is that in a decade ago or in let's say 20 years ago or so, if you had to run some new process, you had to really stop everything that was going on and then create some changes that would now be tested and you could get some data, and that would actually cost money because for some of the customers that we work with, as an example, a nuclear power plant, they produce $1 million of electricity every day. So shutting down that plant means that you're shutting down producing that electricity. For some, the goals might be related to expanding your reach. If you want to get into these new geographies, then that could be an important way to drive that business growth for you. For some, it may be automation, where once you are understanding what your current process is, you want to bring automation so you can grow your business. You're not dependent on hiring new employees, at least to that proportion, to grow that much. If you want to be 10x or 100x, then you don't have to have a 10 times the team members that you have, so that's important. For some, it may be operational efficiency. So just running whatever processes you have, the business functions that you have in a much more efficient way. And then digital twin is another important way that you could simulate whatever the environment you have, and then from that you are able to at times run some of these experiments at low cost and absolutely at times no cost, like we talked about the cost zero experiments. So the next thing is that to drive business growth, you need to have that resilience and agility, and that's going to be very important as well. And then finally, for some, the goal might be to create that next level customer experience. So whatever your goal might be, if we touch on that other piece of our topic, which is digital transformation, driving business growth, but doing it with sustainability, what does really sustainability mean for us? Sustainability is important, and sustainability could be something as simple as making sure that you are taking these small steps to ensure that we are not having a huge impact and borrowing all these resources from future and using those resources today. So just having that right mindset is extremely important, which sometimes we refer to as we can refer to as reduce, reuse, and recycle. Looks like there's some more people that are waiting in the lobby. So when I get an opportunity, I can, or do you want me to stop and do it? Okay, let's see if we might be able to do it quickly. People admit. All right, done. Okay, so what is important in this process is that sustainability is extremely important, because a lot of times, at least for a company like us, sustainability would lead to being able to attract the best talent. And give me a minute to explain how there is a connection between sustainability and being able to attract the best talent. If you think about it, not everybody wants to work at a company just for increasing the profits of that company. For a lot of people, why they choose to work for a certain company, and especially the best people, they choose to work for a certain company because they believe in the thought process and they believe that there is something bigger than just the corporate profits and something bigger than themselves that they could be a part of and they could work on. And that goes to building a culture of purpose. And what that means is that we need to be able to create that sustainability as a vision, as something that is always important for the organization. And I talked about how something as simple as not using those styrofoam cups, you could create that policy and let all of your employees know that moving forward, we're not going to be using those styrofoam cups. And that could bring that change that everybody now understands that the company really believes in sustainability. And that's why having a sustainability statement and keeping sustainability in mind when you are creating your digital transformation strategy becomes really important. So again, in summary, most people want to work for organizations that have sustainability as an important mission, and they have this sustainability vision front and center, and they talk about it all the time. So with that, we have so many other examples of sustainability. Like I talked about an important driver for business growth as digital twin, which is very popular nowadays, which is essentially like, let's say you have a business where you have an assembly line, and what you want to do is create that virtual environment, that metaverse-like environment in which you are able to simulate everything that you do. And then that gives you a platform that without actually going anywhere, without actually physically moving the machinery or moving your assembly line, you're able to test different things and test these hypotheses and say, okay, well, what if we change the position of this from here to there? What if we add another step here? So by doing some of that, you're able to really do those digital transformation experiments in a sustainable way without having to have a huge impact. Similarly, there are so many other examples as well, like for the Apollo launch, NASA was able to run a simulation so that they're not having to every time launch something in the space. Of course, that requires a lot of energy and just testing some of those ideas without having to actually do something and running that simulation. So extremely important. All right, so now that we've covered what we're going to talk about, let's dive deeper into some of these details. So there are 4 key areas within digital transformation that we like to look at. And as I mentioned, one of the very important areas is process. So even if it's going to be technology that's going to be driving that innovation, that digital transformation, we want to make sure that we have the right processes and we are able to question everything. So we're going to get into that step-by-step guide later on, but that one area is extremely important, which is process. Number 2, it's about the business model. So if we look at this slide where we have business growth as a driver, at this pyramid, you can see at the top is the corporate strategy. So for many of you in the leadership roles, for many of you who would like to learn more about digital transformation, the corporate strategy is more related to what businesses to be in, and that is something that may be decided by the board. That may be something that's decided by the leadership team. And even if you are a part of that leadership team, this is really something that is attached to the company, and it's very difficult to maybe change what businesses you want to be in. But at times that may be possible. But that's not the kind of change that may be important in digital transformation. But primarily what we want to talk about is how to be competitive in that business that is already decided as your corporate strategy. So there's corporate strategy, and then there's the business strategy. And the business strategy is really important, and that's what we need to have juxtaposed to that digital transformation initiative that we would have. Within that, there may be other components of digital transformation that you may want to talk about. You may want to discuss mobile strategy and your product strategy, your pricing strategy, revenue strategy, market strategy, engaging your customers better, so that engagement strategy. And there can be a lot of different factors that together create that overall digital transformation strategy. Going back to that previous slide again, in this one, you would see that number 3 is culture. Again, that's also a very important aspect. And how you use culture for driving digital transformation is by educating your employees, by creating that environment that has a lot of flexibility, but at the same time being very rigid on a few areas and knowing that, yes, these are the values that we want to go with, and this is something that we're not going to be flexible in. And culture is how things are done around in your organization. Culture is related to the unspoken rules that are existing in your organization. And to change that, that may be one of the toughest areas, but of course it can be done, and it needs to be bottom up, where you are able to educate all of the different teams and set goals for them and create that culture where they have these basic rules and simple rules that they can always go back to and then use those for decision making, and that just then becomes your playbook and your culture. And last but not least, it's the domain, and that's really important as well. That is related to understanding that what are the kinds of experiments that within your domain, within your vertical, you are able to run, and that would come by looking at a lot of different examples. So with that, skipping 2 slides, we're going to what are the kinds of questions that we see that the CIOs are asking. So one question could be, we want to do something in digital, but we don't know what to do. Of course, digital transformation is something that's important goal for us in 2023, but where do we begin, and how do we start, and what is it that we need to do? Another one could be like how we can use digital transformation to increase revenue and decrease cost. Of course, those are the 2 fundamental factors that you can look at from the finance perspective: increasing revenue, decreasing cost. That's going to help your business. How digital transformation can help with field service representatives. There may be a more narrow question for some of the CIOs, for some of the technology leaders. The question may be how digital transformation can help in that specific area. Then another question that we get a lot, that we hear a lot, is what are the functions that you should target? Should you create that digital transformation in HR? Is it about creating a better customer experience? Is it about taking a look at your production? Is it about this department or that department? So, of course, that's an important question. And how do we create delightful experience for customers and engage them better? Of course, that's important, and digital transformation can be the answer for that as well. How can we eliminate steps from the current process and the current workflow and automate as much as possible? Another question can be, what story can data tell us? For a lot of the organizations, there may be tons of data that you may have available, but how to look at that data and get some actionable insights from there, that can be really important as well. Are your current digital properties ready for digital transformation? That's another important question. Then what about the revenue leakage in omni-channel world? That can be a question. And then last but not least, how do we come up with a price that maximizes the profit? The answer can lie in digital transformation experiment as well. And then how do we offer an integrated experience? So let's talk about the step-by-step process, and then we're going to go through all of these steps. So if I am tasked with going to a company and creating their digital transformation roadmap, then where I would begin from, number 1 would be mapping the entire process. What does that mean? Well, you think about from the very beginning when you have a touch point with the customer or wherever you want to begin, from that point, how everything is done. If you could just map all of that process and have that right there in front of you, then that's going to be an important aspect, step one for you when you want to create that digital transformation. Number two would be you question everything. You look at that process and then you question everything. And then of course you can go and improve a lot of those processes. Once you question, the way that you're questioning is going to be, okay, can I just, why do I need this process? Why do I need this process this certain way? And when you ask those questions, you would get the answers. You could list the pros and cons of doing it a certain way. And that's what's going to help you to come up with new ideas. And that's how you can improve that process. And then finally, it's about iterating and going through that exercise for every single area. Now, this may sound very simple, but if you look at even a company like us, our process is really huge, from all the way at the very beginning when our marketing folks decide what are the accounts that we want to go talk to, from then running those experiments in marketing and trying to reach a lot of different customers and setting up those introduction meetings where we are able to go and have that conversation with them and present some ideas for them. So that's very important as well. So a true transformation requires different culture and a different mindset than the traditional practices, and this transformation will feel overwhelming. So we covered that earlier. That's great. This is a little bit about me. I didn't want to start with this, but I'm Arvind Serene, and I am the chairman and CEO of Copper Mobile. And we are actually changing our name from Copper Mobile to Copper Digital starting next year. We are an enterprise-centric digital transformation company, and we have helped a lot of organizations to, with cutting-edge technology solutions. And the reason that we're changing our name from Copper Mobile to Copper Digital is because with Copper Mobile, we were focused a little bit on one aspect of digital transformation, which was creating mobile apps. But we'll be covering that. This is one essential tool, but there are so many other tools that our customers really wanted for us to solve their problems. I have had tons of conversations with executives from all over the industry, over 10,000 plus executive leaders that I've talked to and discussed their digital transformation roadmap and strategy, and that too with a wide variety of customers. So let's get into the details of step-by-step digital transformation. So as I mentioned, step one, if I'm going in to any organization and trying to map out a strategy for digital transformation, then step one is going to be the process flow, as we talked about. Now, this can be done using various tools. You could use one of the tools like Balsamiq or Figma if you have somebody in design, and then just create that process flow and just start putting things. And whatever interviews that you're conducting with different departments, just try to understand what their process might be. So I'm showing you for Copper Digital, the company we would be starting January 1st, 2023. This is the process, and this is the exact same exercise that we did as well. And I know that this may not be visible, but that's by design. We obviously didn't want to just put out our process, but I can see some of it. As you see, there's the marketing department, there's sales department, there's pre-sales, and then it comes to finance and HR, delivery, and then finally there's within delivery there's quality assurance, and then it ends with having a happy customer, and also then channeling them back to some websites where they could leave a review for us if they really like the work that we did for them. So this is all of what we do, and all the different departments are within this. So let's say now you have mapped out the entire process like we talked about. So then the next step for you is going to be to iterate your company's process. So what that means is that you want to go to every department and really empathize and question everything. You want to go ahead and take a look at why is this done this way? Is there a way that we could use technology to maybe eliminate that whole step? Or is there a way that we are able to automate this process? So you want to question everything, and the way you design that is in the first phase, the understanding phase, you're empathizing. You're understanding, okay, well, who's doing this? Okay, this is this department and these are their goals. Is this the best way? Is this the shortest path to getting this done? So that's really, really important. Once you're able to do that, then you define your understanding. So that could be like laying out that process flow. And then perhaps you could be coming up with ideas. You have that process flow and you're like, okay, well, let's think about some ideas. We're gonna pick marketing department, or we're gonna pick the sales department. And what we wanna do is we're looking at our current process and how things are done now, but maybe we wanna change certain aspects and we wanna be able to get back to our customers or prospects very quickly. Then how do you do that? And how could you use that technology? How could you use technology to really help you with that? So you come up with a lot of ideas. Let's say somebody that you're brainstorming with says, oh, you know what, we could use constant contact, or we could use, this other tool, or we could have a strategy where we can go forward and do this a certain way. So that's important. Now, once you come up with a lot of those ideas, sort of let that democratic process within the room who is responsible for digital transformation have a debate. And after that debate, there may be one or two ideas that you want to pick and you want to go with a prototype. So come up with that prototype, just try to have a very lean experiment and see what outcomes you're able to produce, and then look at the data, because you want to make sure that you are very evidence-based. You don't want to be just on the basis of whatever or whoever wins the debate. Just go ahead and implement that expensive digital transformation strategy. You need to be running a small prototype without having to disrupt too many things. You want to be creating that prototype, and then you want to test it. And then finally, if you get the results that, wow, this really helps us with converting more prospects into customers. Let's say you're driving that digital transformation for your sales department, then you go ahead and implement that at scale, and then you're able to launch something like that across all the geographies and for the entire department. So again, it's understand, explore, and materialize. So these are going to be the steps when you want to iterate on your process. Now, the same stuff, I want to get in more details. So if you look at this rapid prototyping, it's very important that we have that closed feedback loop. So let's say there's an idea and you create that business model or that briefing for everybody. So you want to lay it out maybe on one or two sheets of paper or Google Docs. And then from there, you want to be writing, okay, what is that hypothesis? What are we going to do? What outcomes we're looking for? And how long are we going to run that experiment? And once you have that business model, that brief, then you go to the user research. That means that you want to do some research and see if somebody already has run that experiment and what challenges they faced. And that's when it's very important to have that community where you are able to drive that innovation really fast, because then you could eliminate some of those experiments very early on. The next step, you're going to go to getting some insights. And here, as we show that there may be some libraries and solutions that you may already have, or you could get from one of the third parties. For example, you don't need to reinvent the wheel and create a system that's AI-based that is sending emails to some of your prospects. You want to go ahead and buy that service and then implement that, at least within that department. Now, from that, you come up with a concept, and then you lay out the requirements, you do the feasibility analysis, and you understand what that strategy is. And then finally, you come up with that actionable prototype. And as you drive this innovation, you have that closed feedback loop. That means you measure everything that you have that you're running, anything that you run as an experiment, you want to at least be able to get some data and get some insights. So if it's sales and conversions, if it's going to be the performance management, if it's going to be other analytics, the audience behavior, whatever that may be for driving digital transformation, you want to be measuring it. You want to have that hypothesis early on, and then you want to be measuring it as you run that experiment. So the next thing in this is going to be like thinking about transformation not as a destination, but really thinking about that as a journey, something that you want to be doing constantly, and then you want to slowly be making some progress in that field by going one by one and changing this process and updating this process and eliminating this process and using technology to run this particular process. And once you're able to do that, you would see that over a long period of time, you're going to see that compounding effect, and there's going to be tremendous improvements that you'll be able to get. So remember, it's not a task. Digital transformation is not a task to check off. It is changing that mindset, and it's that journey that you embark on, and you continue to do that over time. Well, great. So where do we look? So now let's say you've mapped out your entire process. And you know what? At times I actually did it with Sharpies and taking a huge paper and then just using Sharpie and then just drawing it out and listening and understanding. Okay, well, from here it goes here. Of course, if you're able to do that, and of course, if you have a good understanding of your process, then you would be able to maybe find one of the older processes that you may have already mapped out, and then take that and start updating that or convert that into a newer tool so it's easy for you to start to make changes. And then the important thing is that once you've done that, then you want to be thinking about using these 4 different growth drivers. So what does that mean? So what are the four growth drivers? One of them is mobile and web, right? And this is something that we've been doing for a very long time. This is something that we used to lead with. The other growth driver is cloud, and that comes in domain, as we talked about. And then another one is IoT, and another one is data. So let me talk about some of these and how to use these. So for example, you have a specific workflow, and in that workflow right now, you may be getting your data via email. And then if you want to change that, if you think that there are some efficiencies that we could gain by maybe creating a simple form-based mobile app or a web-based tool so that they're not having to send an email, your field service or other employees, but instead they could just use the mobile app, then you could use that as one of the drivers within your overall process. Secondly, one driver could be having all of your processes, all of your data to be migrated on cloud. And that is very important as well, because there are so many advantages of going on cloud, and you may already have certain applications on the cloud or certain applications that you may have data on cloud as well, but it's important to have that coherent strategy for cloud as well, and that could be where a lot of your efficiencies could come from. The other one could be IoT. So as you know, in digital twins as well, you could use certain IoT-based devices that are extremely important in giving some of that data back and then helping that simulation give us some results as if we were running that actual process by making those physical changes in our real world environment. So IoT can be an important way to collect that data and feed it to the simulation with an example of digital twins, as I mentioned. Also, IoT can be important in other areas as well. What is IoT? It's Internet of Things, and there are over, I believe, 13 billion devices that exist now in our world. So it's very important. At times, you may want to integrate IoT with some sort of other device that you may have. As an example, we had an application that we created for measuring the temperature and measuring the amount of chemicals within a swimming pool. And that was a good example of IoT. Similarly, if you have certain pipeline and you want to be measuring the temperature so that there's no freezing that is caused along the way, then that could be another important way to use IoT, Internet of Things, so devices that are able to capture data and send that via cloud. And that can be an important technology growth driver for you. Last but not least, data. I feel like that saying it's all about data is so true, because for a lot of you, you may have tons of data from the last 5, 10, 15 years, and you may not be sure how to leverage that data in order to have a competitive advantage and how to create that digital transformation roadmap by using data and then getting some actionable insights. So data can be huge, and there are many different ways that you can utilize data. It could be that you have tons of data around the time it takes for you to service one customer. Then you could use that data and come up with certain formulas that you can already have a good idea and some insights, so you can then go back and change that process. But now take that one step further. What if you could use machine learning and you could predict how much time it takes for a certain task when there may be a certain type of a customer that you want to service? So that can be another example. And again, data is just extremely important, and this can be an important driver for growth for you. So on this slide, what did we look at? Just a quick recap. There are ways in which you can create that growth for using technology within your processes. So within your processes, you want to take a look at how you can use mobile and web, how you can use cloud, how you can add IoT to the mix to run some experiment, and how you can leverage data for getting some insights and then being able to improve that process. So on the next slide, we have digital transformation utilizes, of course, we know now, technology to solve problems. Also, we learned that fundamentally altering the way that the business operates can be really good for digital transformation by questioning everything, all of the different processes as we talked about. Also, I want us to keep in mind, as there is this third point, that digital transformation doesn't necessarily mean that everything that is existing in analog, just convert that to digital. That may be very short-sighted thinking, if you will. So another important fact in digital transformation is that success would come with a lot of patience. So you have to just continuously drive innovation and continuously think about different ways that you can use technology in creating a better experience for your customers, a better way to run your organization, a better way to arrange your processes, and then finally, high impact business problems on priority. So that's another factor, that if you want to think about what are the different types of problems that you should prioritize, then of course you can look at whatever those problems are that you want to solve that would have the highest impact on your top line, on your bottom line. So those are the areas that you can go first. For us at Copper Digital, the key domains, the key verticals that we focus on are fintech, because we see a lot of opportunity there and a lot of ways that we are able to stay up to date by working with the fintech customers, the financial technology customers. So we love solving problems in that domain. There's a huge appetite in that domain for new ideas and adopting the new technologies. And then, of course, in healthcare as well, we are right now working with Mount Sinai in a lot of different areas to drive that digital transformation for them. And it's great. This is an area that is very important for us, and we can cover some examples in that field. And then last but not least, it's manufacturing, but more broadly is the Industry 4.0 that has not just manufacturing, but transportation and logistics and operations and other areas as well. So we're going to get to the last part of our conversation. If you all have any questions or need more details, then just leave a comment for us, and my team is really amazing, and they'll get back with the answers to your questions, or also send you some of these slides via email if you leave your email over there. So one example that's really close to my heart that I want to talk about is this one in front of us. So this is our example of the true transformation. So before digital transformation, I want you to imagine this particular process where this is for a nuclear power plant, and the technician would have a 12-hour shift, and the technician would really go and come back to the hotel where they had checked in, because usually this is in a remote area, and then you would take the status report from yesterday, and that status report you're gonna save with today's date, and then from there you are going to update your notes. You're gonna be like, okay, did the breaker open or not, or did this task happen or not? And once you're able to do that, you send it to the project manager. The project manager would then get reports from multiple technicians, and then the project manager would consolidate all that, put it into another Word format report, and then send it to the command center. The command center then would get this amazing consolidated report, and that they would use from many different project managers and put it into an Excel that you see on your screen right now. So in this, they were tracking the safety, quality, delivery, people, equipment, and a lot of different things that they wanted to track. And then depending on the score, they would update that. But imagine this dashboard, they would screenshot and then send it to all of the VPs twice a day, 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. This was like, we were like, there's got to be a better way. So this is what we came up with. We really got into the processes, and we looked at, okay, well, is this really something that's important? Is this something that you need to do? Why do you need to have a status report if someone could just, from the mobile app, you already know what time the breaker is going to open. So what if you get a push notification, or if you don't have the signal, then even a time notification, and then you could just select, yes, the breaker opened, or if the answer is no, then select a reason. There's going to be a finite reasons, or you add it to the other reason, and then from that other reason, you are able to next time look at the data and then have that as an important criteria as well for the next time when you do something like that. So this is an example of true transformation where they thought that they really needed to make that report more efficient, but we questioned that particular process and asked them if they really needed that report. Now, in that scenario, there are certain regulatory aspects where you may still need that report, but then that report can be automated, and that report could just be generated by somebody in the field answering only a few questions very easily. Next, this is an example for manufacturing, and a lot of people in the audience are from that field, I know, from the registrations earlier. So this is another very important aspect where a company would run the process using iPads, using iPad application, and be able to consolidate a lot of that data that they had for different machinery. And this helped them in reducing waste. So all of the items that were remaining after processing something, that goes back to the inventory. And this was something that the company really wanted as one of the important goals, and we were able to do that as well. Then, as I talked about, a forecasting system and something where you could have data modeling and you could actually predict certain aspects of how long would it take to perform a certain task and get different alerts and lots of other features that you could take care of. This is also another good one where I really like this example. So this is one of our customers, and what we were able to do for this customer was that give them an experience where they take the iPad and they are able to showcase to their end customer how a rack would appear for them. So the business that they're in is distributing different hardware parts to mechanics all over the United States. And in order to do that, they had a very unique model where they would actually have their own blocks that they would set up at those tech hardware shops, and then they wouldn't charge for the inventory that was inside those racks that they were using. So that's how they were running a really good business, and they had that business model. But in order to demonstrate that, okay, well, you could put this rack here within your business, and this is what it's going to look like. And their job was to just go every now and then and check how many parts were already used, and then refilling some of those parts easily for their end customers. The next example is in transportation, where this is an amazing organization that was running a transportation company with a handful of trucks. And for these handful of trucks, it was really important to have that latest information by having those dashboards, and by using those IoT devices, and by using your phone to track the location, to get information for the trips, and to get the list of what are the items to pick up. And I think what I like to demonstrate here is that it's really important that you create an experience that your employees would appreciate, admire, and love. And somehow, if you can add gamification to your processes, that can be another good way as you are creating that digital transformation journey for your organization. You could be having applications that are looking really beautiful. You could be giving them a gamified experience to your employees, so no one's having to do a mundane job, but then instead they are really engaged and they're getting rewards and appreciation along the way as they go through the daily tasks. This is probably the last one that we're going to talk about for a company, Recycle Now, and this is an amazing customer. They've been our customer for a very long time now, and with the CEO of the company, Steve, he actually came to our office and he talked about what his challenges were. And I don't want to go through the entire digital transformation engagement that we did with him, but I'm going to leave you with an important thought. He actually changed the way he was paying all of his employees once we were able to implement this digital transformation engagement for him. So what that means is that in this particular business for Recycle Now, they are in the business of going to multifamily homes and having a huge workforce that picks up trash from outside, the recycled trash from outside the homes. And then in order to do that, they were hiring constantly a lot of new employees. And then they wanted to track the time that it took to do a certain task. So the way that they were able to get this next level insight was that they were able to now, like the people who were taking longer to pick up the trash were getting paid more because they were paying on the basis of time. But now they made that one simple change where they started paying on the basis of the tasks that were accomplished. And this was only possible as they embarked on that digital transformation journey. Now, this may be a challenge that many of you may be facing as well, or maybe there are a different set of challenges. And that's why I would like us to remember that the core areas of digital transformation are not just related to technology. It is the mindset, it is the process, it is people. You have to understand what your current culture is and what kind of a culture you want to create. You want to look at the processes that you have right now, and then what are those future processes that you would like to have within your organization. And then finally, if there are any questions or if there are some more details that you would like, then I would encourage you to leave a comment, and then also email us your questions. You could send us an email at sales@coppermobile.com, and we'd be happy to share some of those experiences or set up a conversation with you specifically to talk about some of the digital transformation learnings that we've had over the last 12 years. So thank you, everyone. We really enjoyed this webinar, and we're going to be bringing you a series of these webinars, and I'm looking forward to having another one of these with you in a few months. And until then, goodbye.